this experiment, I wanted to see if the efficiency of grindstones could be measured through the amount of calories burned versus produced when grinding grain. This kind of information could assist in understanding why certain types of grindstones are selected for in archaeological sites. I couldn't find any studies exactly like this, although Bleed and Bleed have a similar paper in which they test soil efficiency calorie-wise as well. There seem to be many studies which are based on time efficiency. Although efficiency can be defined in many different ways, it seemed to me that calories in, calories out is a simple enough measure that was probably more relevant to measure people than any other method of efficiency. Therefore, this seemed like an underutilized set of data, and I was curious to see what results it would get. There are other methods of understanding how and why certain grindstones were used, such as residue and use wear analysis, but these findings do not really help us understand why particular shapes and textures are chosen. I hope to supplement those findings with my results. Most studies that test tool efficiency also seem to compare tools with major differences, so I wanted to look at similar but slightly different tools to see what the results were. I looked at two different types of grindstone slabs for this experiment, one with a grooved surface and the other with a flat one. I used barley grain to grind with, as it was all I had on hand at the time, and a fairly common resource. I measured out 1 kilogram of barley for each grindstone, and ground small handfuls at a time with the same handheld stone for each trowel. I grounded each grindstone for 30 minutes. Every 10 minutes I stopped to record my heartbeat per minute, which I would later turn into an average to calculate the calories I burned. As an interesting little piece of trivia, I also researched which muscles were used heaviest for grinding flour and compared these to common exercises. I found that a close equivalent to grinding is actually bench pressing. More specifically, the close grip bench press. The muscles used for these exercises are the triceps, deltoids, pectoralis major, and the infraspinatus. I just thought that was kind of neat. Between the two trials, I stopped to rest for half an hour to make sure my energy levels didn't affect the results at all. I tried out the grooved grindstone first, and then the flat. I found that the flat one was much more difficult to use, and you can see in the video here that I wasted heaps of seeds and they're spilling everywhere. I kept this wastage from both trials and waited to see if it affected results at all. When I was done, I measured the amount of flour produced for each grindstone, and the amount of wastage I collected. I then worked out my average BPM and compiled all my results. I found that on average I had the same beats per minute for each grindstone type, which ended up being 94.67, not outside of a typical resting heart rate for adults, which I found interesting. I then calculated my personal resting heart rate and found it to be around 68 beats per minute, So my heart rate did increase in this experiment, but not outside of a typical resting range. This is probably accurate though, because I didn't feel too out of breath during the grinding process. I found that the differences in flour production were extremely noticeable. For the groove grindstone, 70 grams of flour was produced, while the flat grindstone only produced 30 grams. The wastage was actually the same for both, at 20 grams, but obviously the ratio of wastage was much higher in the case of the flat grindstone. I then researched how many calories are found in 100 grams of whole grain flour, and used this to calculate the calories that I made. I found that the grooved grindstone produced 238 calories, while the flat grindstone produced 102 calories. I then ran my beats per minute through an online calculator that took height, weight, gender, BPM, and duration of activity into account. And I found that for each trial I burned 109.4 calories. This means that for the flat grindstone trial I burned 7.4 more calories than I produced, while for the grooved grindstone I gained 128.6 calories. These may seem like minor differences, but I plotted this data on graphs to see the long-term results, and I think this data speaks for itself. Even after grinding for 5 hours straight, you would be losing around 400 calories in the flat stone, while with the grooved grindstone you would be gaining over 1,000. Clearly, the grooved grindstone is the most efficient use of energy out of the two. This experiment shows that, with even relatively minor differences in surface texture of these grindstones, the calorie efficiency can be greatly affected. While an experiment looking at time efficiency may have also been just as effective in this case, I still feel as though a calorie-based investigation allows us to access some finer details of the cost-benefit ratio here, which may help archaeologists further understand why or how certain grindstone shapes are found in certain frequencies in the archaeological record. All in all, I would call this experiment a success. If I was to do anything differently, I think an experiment such as this would definitely benefit from a larger scale of operation. More than just 2 trials and 1 test subject would have been ideal, but it was all I had to work with at the time. My technique may have been a bit off, and more subjects would have helped to combat this. It's also worth noting that the online calorie calculator I used may not have been totally accurate. However, I could not get my hands on an oxygen consumption calculator, which is the most efficient method of calculating calories, so again I was just working with what I had at the time. I think this experiment is a good start into this calorie-based direction of efficiency testing, and I hope this experiment will prove informative in understanding the selection processes placed upon grindstones. Thanks for listening.